This is the new 2025 FJERN STORMGROTTA. Now this is a first quick look, but stop, don't click off, because after this quick look, dimensions, stats, etc., I'm gonna take it up a local hill to see how it performs in the wind, because this is billed as a 4-season tent, and that's what we all want to know, what the wind performance is like. Right, the tent all up with pegs, poles, the lot, I make to be 1.63 kilos. Brilliant. FJERN said 1.6. The optional footprint is 170 grams. It's a nice compact package. The length is 40 centimeters and the diameter, squished a tiny bit, is 16. I really like this bag, so it naturally forms a handle there between the two clip points, kind of like a burrito drawer sort of thing. And instructions inside there are 3 poles that are 7000 series aluminium, and I think these are 8.5. The unbranded, just press fit for the end sleeves there. It doesn't fill me with enormous confidence, but that's okay. Ball end pieces. Now there's 12 Y pegs supplied, and unfortunately these, I feel, are only really suitable for summer conditions. They're lovely and light, branded FJERN, but don't have the length for winter conditions, for a lot of holding power, or any wind really. Now the reason being mainly is I tend to find that you've got that much out for attachment, and then this top part, about this part, is a lower density soil substrate, so you've only really got about kind of like 4 inches operating depth here, misses. But I'm going to use these for now in this pitch, so let's pop it up and we'll have a little look what it's like. Now the footprint looks like it doesn't cover all of the tent, so the vestibule might be excluded, but I'm going to flip it round to try and cover the vestibule instead of the inner tent. Just quickly peg this out before we get it on. Get it on. Okay, here's the 3 poles, one of which is a little bit shorter, but it's not marked as shorter, so you'll need to look out for that. Okay, here we go. Here are the toggles for attaching the footprint. Now, it's got potential, this tent, and it's been released just at the start of the winter, so inevitably the emphasis is going to be on storm worthiness, total 4-season performance. But despite the time of year, keep an open mind, because 4-season doesn't just mean winter, does it? Okay, since the tent is narrow at one end and wide at the other, it only will work with the footprint giving you some vestibule cover if you flick the footprint around to be the wrong way up. In other words, the waterproof coating should always be on the top, and that would just give you inner tent protection. But if we flip it over, we can get vestibule protection, but it means the waterproof protection is on the bottom. But that is what I'm going to do. So that's worked. It's not the recommended way of doing it, but it only means that this section of the inner tent floor is unprotected by the footprint, and I would rather buy a new footprint after a year or 2 and risk that bit getting abraded. But that's the non-business part, you know, that's where the dog is going to lie, or where you put your rucksack. So I would rather just spend, I think it's £30 on a new footprint every so often, or just put another bit of material down there. So part of it's easy pitch credentials are the fact that you can get it down on the ground first. Ready to put the poles in. Now this tent's impressively light for its construction, but as you start to build it, you can see where the weight's being saved. Now I'm used to tents from the likes of Nortent, and this is much more reinforced, much more kind of heavy duty. The stitching at the bottom here isn't great, not finished off across there. It's serviceable, but you can see where money's been saved and how it becomes lighter. Now what that'll mean in terms of longevity and robustness remains to be seen, but just pointing out where there will be compromises with a tent like this. But that stands up really nicely, and we've got a build from the ground pitch. Now if you've spotted this carabiner on here, I'll come to that in a minute. So you just go around clipping from the base up, and this is going to be great in wind, which we doubtless would have found out from the wind pitch that you've probably already watched. Just go round, and then as early as you can start to get a guy out by wrapping it round and pegging out. Now what's been causing some controversy amongst my fellow reviewers is this attachment point here. Now have a look at the videos done by Novice Wild Camper and Andrew Park for their own takes on this, but the issue is that when you're putting these cross brace pieces on, it's quite a lot of effort. Now the issues I've got with them is, yes, the amount of effort and the difficulty with doing that, but this is a high stress point on the top of the tent. It's where the poles meet. It's good, there's quite a lot of tension there, but nonetheless there's quite a lot of tension, and these clips are very small. I mean, look at the size of that. It looks pretty vulnerable to me. And the other thing I don't like is the tension on the stitching there, if you can see that. Now another weight saving part that leaves me a little bit worried is these haven't got any particular reinforcement on. They've just got the stitching at this cross point, so we can see the strain that stitching goes up to. So you know, it's probably really irritating to tent designers and manufacturers and distributors, etc., when people start modding and criticizing straight away. And a lot of things are just about personal taste. And the fact is that with all tents, we all like kind of like different sort of things, don't we? So the fact is that we all want something subtly different, and we'll all modify. But I think if you've got stress, forces and pitching, this is a problem both in terms of strength and ease of pitching. Now the other thing that I don't like with these stress points is you can see that stitching under load here. It's been like lifted up there. And I haven't got them all clipped out yet, but that is a concern to me. So definitely what I'm going to do is, not necessarily on the whole length, but I'm going to put seam sealant around all of these points, and that'll help to reduce some of my worry and increase the strength. So let me show you this clip and my little solution. So what you have to do is get this over the top. It's very small to get hold of, and then pushing that down, clip that in. Now I've managed that fine. I've got decent fingers, but I can see how that could be kind of like quite stressful and difficult in windy conditions, and it gets worse if it's the last one. What my good friend Andrew Park did to help with this situation was, on each side of the attachment points here, he put some cord to help you to pull it round. But what I've done instead is put a small carabiner on. Now I'll put a link below to these. These are great little carabiners. I just got them from Amazon for a few quid. Frashero, they're called, and they're not for climbing, but they're strong, really well made, pretty cheap. I think they work out £2.50 each. So what I've been doing is putting the carabiner through both of these loops. But what the problem is then is it only leaves the strain on one of the loops. What I've done here is to put a zip tie there to shorten that loop so it's spread between the two, and you've got a kind of like a mini FJERN STORMGROTTA sort of clip system. Now this zip tie might slip, so if that happens I'm going to have to kind of modify, or probably just stitch it really if it's working as a system. Now we probably shouldn't be modifying immediately before we've even slept in it, but I've pitched this a couple of times now just to kind of have a little look, and I'm going to wild camp in it tomorrow night, and I want this to be easier. Not space for both poles to go through at the same time, so you've got to clip one on, shove it to the bottom, and then clip the other on. Nice and easy, and I'll just do the last one. So let me just show you that before it's clipped together. That one through there, that one through there, and then just knit this down so it's the same length as the other one. And there it is, not pegged out. A reasonably kind of strong structure. This end's a bit vulnerable, but the other end is going to be the wind end. Quite a large panel here. Got a peg out point there, but you know, we'll see how it does in the wind. Right, let's have a little look inside, give you some measurements. Now, could I get my head round this at first? I was like, what's going on here? What, hey, what? But now, absolutely love it. Why does everybody do this? Just put the door peg down end point and the zipper pull integrated into one. There's no anti-zip creep attachment point, but you could always unclip the inner and put that through. So you've kind of got a kind of one really on the inner tent attachment point. Just clip that back on there. It's probably going to be pretty awkward from inside the tent, but it would work if the door kept blowing open. In we go. Yeah, so that's worked. I've got vestibule protection now, and I'd rather have that condensation protection and keeping my gear dry any day. These door clips are fantastic. Absolutely happy days. There's a lot of lovely features with this tent. And then the thing that you haven't seen yet, but you probably have seen through other reviewers' things, and the Optimus one has it as well, is this little gear bucket. Again, lovely little feature. That just sits on these toggles, and these look glow in the dark. So we've got mesh just up on the top, what, 20% there? Okay, I'm going to do some measurements and then get a mat inside. And the dog. There you go, that's already useful. Okay, the vestibule size here is 60. The height inside here is 1 meter exactly. And an important test, could I get in here and get out the weather and get my waterproofs off? The answer would be a challenging yes. It's a lovely colour, like a nice shiny olive green. And I think the outer tent is a 15D ripstop nylon. So PU coated on the inside. So this will be a siliconized PU material. Now, PU is great, you don't have to seam seal, but it does have a lesser life prediction than sil. You can see that tape there to show you that it's PU coated on the inside. And PU tents are more sensitive to moisture. Really, really important. They always dry all tents, but go to the 7th level with PU coating. So the width inside is 1 meter. You're in first, hope you noticed that. The overall length is 218, and these measurements so far are exactly what FJERN say, weights, everything. So well done there. And then 55 at that end, and I believe this end where you put your noddle is a little bit wider at 68. I make that. So that tells me that this isn't really going to fit a 198 by kind of 60 odd mat, because that'll start to creep up the walls here. But I've got a mat instead of my usual Nortent 12/7 that should just fit nicely. So a mummy mat would be ideal, but I've got a light tour one here. I think this is the light tour 7.5. Now this light tour is 60 at its widest point, and it's 180 centimeters long. And I do apologise, I forgot to give you the internal height here. I make that with a bit of push, 102. You know, I keep just tossing stuff in there. You can tell a bit of design in gear is really good when you automatically just start using it and it's useful straight away. Excellent. Okay, if I'm in there, I can sit up. I'm fine. I'm 185 centimeters tall. I could drink there, no problem. And importantly, going to be space for the medium-sized dog here. I wouldn't like to put a German Shepherd there, but for my honey, that'd be fine. Now, with my feet just off the end of the mat, I'm a side sleeper. I don't mind that. I'll lie down here. I've got space for my pillow, etc. All fine and dandy. So there's space for me here as a 6'1", nice and cozy. Great. Now when I'm camping tomorrow night, I'm probably going to take my standard tent pegs. This is my all-purpose super robust with a mix of Easterns, Nortent small, kind of like titanium longs. But what I always keep in here is a set of extra guy lines. This is the repair kit and guy lines bag inside here. Now what I've done for multiple purposes like the TFS, NRAN, etc. is made up 6 extra guy lines, again using these little Frasharo carabiners, absolutely great, which are all getting very intimate. So the reason I'm showing you that is because we know that there's these high guy lines here, but this curve here is a vulnerable point. So using this same system, what I could do is just clip that on, and that would be an extra guy line that is not slipping down because the tension on this stops it. So for the most part, we'll give this tent the benefit of the doubt and use the existing guy lines, but since I've always got these with me, I can just pop that on, and that's really secure. Now Andrew Park has gone to the trouble of fitting some extra ones. He's kind of like threaded it round. Novice wild camper Michael, he's talked about getting those 3FUL rings and sliding them on the poles, but since I've always got these, to me that's my solution. Everybody can do their own thing or just trust the existing guy lines, but these are always with me. Well, not when I go to bed or go to work, but it's not far off. Aye, it's a nice looking tent. Don't worry, OCD people, I'll clip these off just to see how it works first. Now, a little bit about FJERN. I've been using FJERN gear for about 2 years now, some of which I've bought myself and some of which they've kindly sent to me, as they did this tent. And I would describe it as a British company that's really thinking and catering to the kind of starter, budget conscious, but also a lot of their gear just works really well despite the very competitive price point. Now, it's no secret that there's a FJERN website and often the stuff goes discounted on there, but also the same holding company owns Sports Pursuit and they have lots of fantastic prices for FJERN gear on there, and they're very good at doing kind of like high quality gear, end of line clearances. I bought a number of kind of like high spec bits of mountaineering kit from there. So the clothes that I'm wearing now, particularly this Octa jacket, you would have seen me wearing this lots of times. It's got like a mesh lining, thumb loops with a soft stretchy material, an easy to use hood there, which won't zip up because of the microphone, and I just really like it. It could do with a bit of stretch and give in it. There's not that, but that's a thing I could forgive. And underneath this is a 50% merino and 50% poly FJERN Forster. I've already got one of these, so I've just bought another one myself. The sizing tends to be true, but this, I found the larger one to be a little bit on the snug side, and I've got a Breen thermo mesh underneath that one, so I've gone up to the XL. And these that you may have seen before are the Hagner Eco Soft Shell, made out of wholly recycled materials, I think. Maybe you can check that. They've got reinforcement on the knees that isn't particularly waterproof, but it's reinforcement. A nice kind of like bellows there for the pocket, getting your tent pegs in. Would have been nice if they had a kind of waterproof bit on the butt, but you know, overall, you know, they're smart looking and really comfortable, well priced trousers. I've used them kind of like quite a lot, really. I really like them. And one I'd like to try next that I'm hoping will be a bit more wintry. I would describe these as kind of like autumn, spring, not for the full winter. Ideal for just now. The other one I'd like to try is the Nord Soft Shell, which might be a bit heavier duty. But yeah, clothing wise, check them out. The standout thing that you might see on my wild camp tomorrow night is the Arctis down jacket, and that really is kind of like top drawer, super warm, like high spec, as good as anything I've tried really. And the other one I've used a lot is the Breen synthetic as well. So yeah, you would have seen that knocking about. I think you would see the Breen jacket on the I Survived 24-hour on French Army rations video that isn't even out yet, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, let's pop this down and we'll go for the wind pitch. 2-minute job getting this down. Those nice open pole sleeves that just kind of like pop out. No aggro. Yeah, it's ticking a lot of boxes, this tent. Quick roll, footprint still in place, keeping the floor dry. Get that flap over, pull that and clip it up. Okay, you can wonder no more. This is the Breen synthetic jacket. I've used this a lot over the last couple of years. Easy chuck on, really nice material, kind of like stretchy, breathable stuff on the inside. And Joel needed a new shell, so we got him the Force for Eco jacket, and this is kind of like a waterproof recycled material jacket that's like a lovely soft feel to it. It's kind of almost like a soft shell feel to it. Waterproof chest zip there, waterproof zip there, pit zips as well. So you like it, don't you, Joel? proving pretty good. Wears it every single day to school. Also as well, while we're on, you would have seen me wearing a lot. I originally bought the first one myself, the Octa event shell jacket. Excellent bit of kit. On the wild camp tomorrow night, I'll try and bring you that. So I purchased a lot myself, kind of like highly recommended, really good stuff. Okay, that's us, partly pegged out and clipped, going about 15 miles an hour there, gusting up to 26 I've measured so far. Let's get some guy lines out before we have a problem. This is why we kind of like need to do this before you pitch it on a hill. So we've run out of FJERN pegs now. Oh, a lot of tension on that. Let's get this one done properly. So what you do here is push that one down, and then, well, that's at the bottom because there's not space for both, and then put that one in. The same here, and you can, oh, a lot of tension on that now. Yeah, I'm happy with my clip system here, like under pressure when I've got it pegged out under some tension. That works really well, so highly recommended to do that. Maybe I should have slackened these guys off a little bit. They're a bit tight for the clipping the top up. So yeah, a bit too much tension on it there, but that's fine now. Okay, let's pull this out a bit so it's a bit prettier. If this was getting up above 20 to 30, we've got an area of vulnerability here. As soon as a pole starts concaving, you start to lose structure and integrity. So what I'd want is a couple of my big pegs. That on there. So I would highly recommend that you practice pitching at home before you get on the hill, so you can get all the factory guy lines kind of like unknotted and stuff. Right, let's get that well pulled out. That clipped on there against the wind. Thanks, Joel, for the camera work. So that's probably all that I would do for now, but I have got enough guy lines here to do a matching one on all sides. And then, of course, I would peg these out as well, pull that tight. Let's do another quick wind check. Wind always dies down when you get the anemometer out, doesn't it? Every time. Well, as you can see, as we measured it there, it was getting up to about 25. Now kind of like a steady 15. So I think in its original form, kind of so far, kind of in the middle to upper 20s, it's fine. Above that, I'd want to be putting some extra guy lines out. I think, you know, when we're hitting above 30, what this tent will stand up to, I don't know yet. But you know, this is just a first look. No flat, no worries. But you know, it's a nice place to be. Double zip there on the door. And it's pretty calm inside here. So thanks very much for watching. Keep an eye out for my wild camp. This is going to be kind of like real soon. The wild camp video will be probably published a week after this first look. And check out Novice Wild Camper and Andrew Park for their take. But, you know, it's a lovely tent. For the money, hello. For the money, currently you can get it on FJERN for £200. I've seen it for less than that on Sport Pursuit. Its full list price is £400. There's some caveats with it in terms of robustness and longevity. You know, the stitching's under stress here, but if you choose the right conditions and pitch it in the right place, it's definitely got potential. So if I was up atop of a mountain in real storm winter conditions, I'm not going to take this tent yet until I've proved it more. I would go for my newly arrived Nortent Varde for that, but you know, at the moment, for its weight, it's got a lot to offer. So, you know, around 1.6 kilos for this structure. Super easy to pitch, one of the easiest pitched semi-geodesic tents I've ever used. This modification is recommended. It's nice, it looks great too. Okay, thanks very much. I'm going to stop admiring it and take it down, and I'll see you on the wild camp.